Hi, this is a message for all the primary head teachers in East Sussex that I should have been talking to right now. Obviously, very sensibly, the conference was called off this morning for lots of reasons that I think we can all agree with as being quite sensible. But I just wanted to share with you some stuff around well-being and some kind of hints of some of the things that I was going to say. Hopefully, I'll be invited back to say them properly to you. But in terms of well-being, my focus really was to first of all talk about the importance of head teacher well-being, and actually you as the node at the center of your school in terms of sending out really positive messages about the importance of well-being. We all want our children and our parents and our staff to be as well looked after as possible. But I wanted to make the direct link between well-being and progress and memory. Because what cognitive psychology and neuroscience tell us now really clearly is that learning is a science. Teaching is absolutely the art of making that science happen in classrooms. But with 85% of a child's life at home and only 15% at school, it's really important that we think about the whole brain of the whole child for the whole day. And that's why I wanted to really pound the drum for well-being, and flowing out from you as a head teacher at the centre of the school. Because what we know from the neuroscience is there's a set of activities that we need to carry out daily to get brain and body health in the best possible state. And because the brain generates the mind like a projector generates an image on a screen, the quality of our experiences day to day, half of that experience, whether we're feeling good, whether we're feeling productive, motivated, whether our learning and memory is in a good space, is down partly to what we've done in the previous 24 hours. You'll have heard me talk very enthusiastically and passionately about the 12 rocks of well-being, but I would urge you very passionately to imbibe those 12 rocks and apply them to yourselves. So they are making sure you get your sleep sorted, making sure that you're exercising, healthy food, mindfulness, mind wandering, managing your emotions, walking outside in nature, listening to music, connecting with family and friends, being kind and grateful, engaging with your life's purpose, putting yourself in a flow state, and creating, learning, reading. Every single one of those, as you would expect from me, has got a nerdy reason deep in the neuroscience as to why it's important. It's important for you, it's important for your staff, and ultimately it's really important for your kids and your parents. And that message around well-being links directly to learning and progress, because one of the things that I'm really passionate about as an ex-free school meal child myself, Mrs. Thatcher stole my milk, not personally, but between the age of 1976 and 1980, when she was education secretary. She took the milk away and I was one of the recipients of the milk. What the issue is in terms of well-being is that actually the mind, the brain is generated. The brain generates the mind every single day. So the quality of our experiences, the ability for us to create memories, which are very vulnerable structures, is partly down to the quality of the experiences inside the brain. So it's so important that we put well-being at the forefront of our experiences with our children, as well as obviously all the great learning experiences. A really simple message about the importance of well-being and the role that parents can play in that is incredibly important. Alongside that, we need to kind of understand that the brain is built for survival, not for learning. Learning curriculum is not something the brain was designed to do. It will do it, but that's when it's not engaged in lots of management of worry, anxiety, cognitive distortion. If it hasn't had enough sleep, if it hasn't managed its emotions effectively, all of those things reduce the cognitive bandwidth. So I want to make that direct connection between learning, progress, and for me, passionately, I'm passionate about closing the gap for vulnerable learners. And what holds together that group of vulnerable learners, what is the issue that unites them? It's actually vulnerable learning. So they have wonderful experiences in your lessons, in your schools, I'm sure, and it's a huge effort of staff and learning assistants working with parents to make sure that children have great learning experiences. But it's then what happens when they go home, because learning is 3 processes, not 1. It's understanding the work, it's recalling it and retrieving it at a later date, and then it's using it in novel situations. So it's how we support parents and children to understand the things they need to do when they get home in the evening to make sure they create the best possible chance for that little learning process that's begun in lessons to begin to encode inside the brain. So it's a really important kind of part of that process of closing the gap. And for me personally, I think that the notion is that this neuroscience revolution, this way of thinking about the whole child and the whole brain for the whole day, is the bit we're missing. And we need very simple, easy to apply messages for parents that actually not only enable them to support their children, but also unleash in them a sense that actually they're not stuck with the thought patterns and feelings that they may have been experiencing for themselves, and they can help their children in relation to anxiety and cognitive distortions, because all of those things get in the way of learning. So the reason for this video is to remind you of the importance of well-being, put it at the center of your work with your staff, focus on the 12 rocks, because it's a really practical way of beginning a conversation about well-being, enabling people, everyone, to engage with that agenda in a really simple way. None of the 12 rocks of well-being cost anything. It's really important to maximize them. And when you do maximize them, notice the impact that it has. And I really wanted to start the revolution across East Sussex schools. We're already working with 75 schools across Kent, London, East Sussex, Kent and West Sussex. And we're working particularly with the early years across East Sussex, building our Junior Neuro Ninja curriculum with activities for parents. And I really wanted to expand that opportunity for transformational change by engaging with all primary schools across this East Sussex in a really simple way. I'm offering to come into your school to talk to all your students, all your parents and all your staff during the course of next year. I'm obviously trying to think about the tightness of school budgets, and I'm going to price that in a way that you can all afford. It would be fantastic if we could build on the connections we've already made across early years and come into all of your schools. So that would involve me talking to your students for an hour, me talking to your staff for an hour, and then engaging in an hour and a half workshop after school around really simple messages, which are about the importance of well-being, why that's important, how to manage the anxious human mind and cognitive distortions, and the importance of deliberate practice and how actually learning and memory works in the brain, and what kids and parents can do about that. Really simple messages that are easily repeatable, and the vision is that we all build the same language around these key ideas, and we move away from a kind of messy assessment of individual children by talking about the kind of details in terms of how the brain works, and we stand back and we say that actually issues of anxiety and cognitive distortions are ones that all human beings experience. Issues of emotional management are ones that all human beings experience. The brain requires a level of response in relation to managing our own well-being and our own mental habits that help us build the best version of ourselves. So I'd really love to come and work with you from September this year all the way through to the following year, coming into every school, having the same message, connecting up. And obviously linked to that, you would have access, your parents would have access to a website with lots of information that links those direct messages, and obviously lots of support about some of those key messages. So we're creating a kind of parent engagement, parent support opportunity across the county that is the same messages linked directly to the neuroscience and psychology, very accessible, very inspiring, to enable people to move their lives forward. Because actually when we completely understand how the brain works and how it gets in its own way sometimes, we can and we do become unstoppable. Thank you for listening. I think I've rambled on a bit there, but I always tend to.